Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
And today we're talking about The Lion King, the new 2019 remake. More precisely, I'm going to be talking about The Lion King.
Let's give a little backstory because, and I know I'm going to disappoint or, upset everyone, but I absolutely hated the first one. I thought it was like really racist and really homophobic, right? And people ask me, well, how was it racist? And, kind of if they want to look it up in the 20 odd years since it first came out, there's really been a lot of writing about that, right? So, about how the horrible uncle is like...
darker furred,
but also, figured very camp, right? And so on. And then kind of, the hyenas, their marching formation, kind of recalling the Nazis and so on. So I hate it. And, I know my nephew adores it and worships it. And I even went to see the West End show for him, which was, also terrible. At least the version that I saw, though, kind of, I think everybody had the third, fourth, fifth stand-in and at the show that I went to. But anyway, there was nothing that was going to drag me to this new this new animated one.
Until yesterday. When we looked up, I happened to mention that it had made a huge, something like $1.3 billion worldwide.
That's right.
And you went, oh, we've got to see this now.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a flop, and the reviews have been terrible. So it was like kind of more reason not to see it until yesterday, where, it's one of the biggest hits of the year. It's made more than the Avengers, etc., right?
I don't think it's made more than the Avengers. The Avengers has got like... Well, it's knocking on 3 billion. I think, hasn't it beaten Avatar now?
Ah, okay, well...
I mean, there was a weird thing going on with Avengers where the fans were going, we've nearly beaten Avatar, let's go and see it one more time. And it was fucking stupid. Right. So yeah, no, it's well ahead of that.
It's made 1.4 billion worldwide.
Big movie.
So it's a huge international success, and it surprised me very much. So that was the reason... why you went to see it. I couldn't today. I would have gone with you, but...
today we basically had a choice because you've been busy all day. You knew you were going to be busy. So you said, in the evening, we've got a choice between Lion King and Animals.
Yes.
And I said Animals,
yes.
Which is at the Electric. I've been really looking forward to that, which is what we're going to see in an hour. But because I had free time before that, I went, well, I'm going to go see Lion King then.
Yes.
I hope you don't mind, or you can come along if you want.
No, great. You do it so I don't have to.
So, and yeah, I mean...
So how was it?
You really don't have to.
Tell me everything that upset you about it.
I mean, I can tell you in order. Because I was jotting things down in my head, and then after like half an hour I would go and note them down on my phone. And I did this a few times, and I realised I might be annoying the people who I was having to cross in front of. So in the end, I just started writing them on my hand and hoped that they were legible, which they
we have the evidence,
yes. So people were talking about it as the live-action Lion King, which of course is not true. There's not a single bit of live action in it. It's all CGI. But the reason that they're calling it that is because it's realistic.
Yes.
It looks realistic, and obviously the first one was a 2D cartoon, very stylised, and Disney of the era, And the first thing is it looks amazing. Of course it does. The rendering, the lighting, it all looks absolutely beautiful. And
it's such a retrograde aesthetic move, though.
Yes.
Because when you consider all of the freedom that animation brings you, and part of the freedom that it brings you is that you don't have to be anchored to those particular codes of verisimilitude. Right? So what happens, the first thing you do is try to make it as realistic as possible, which is, banal.
Yeah, and the first thing that struck me actually was the aspect ratio, which is a nerdy thing to get hung up on, but it was a really narrow aspect ratio compared to what I expected. At first I thought it might be 16:9, which is TV widescreen. Yeah. I can't imagine they would actually have done that. I think it was basic cinema widescreen, which is 185 to 1, which is a little bit wider than that. But I wanted vistas. The opening is this sweep across the Pride Lands and Pride Rock and whatever. All these animals congregating to see the new kid, Simba. And it did not, as I said, the rendering, the way all the animals are built and animated is very, very beautiful. And, of course it does. The rendering, the way all the animals are built and animated is very, very beautiful. And, the way all the animals are built and animated is very, very beautiful. And, the rendering, the way all the animals are built and animated is very, very beautiful. And, the rendering, the way all the animals are built and animated is very, very beautiful. And, sort of professional, but aesthetically it felt inert.
No.
So much of the film felt inert. It generated no feeling. I mean, all the jokes that I was making to you beforehand about how it was directed by a piece of tracing paper, not John Favreau, it turns out they really weren't jokes. It's actually true. You know, there are shots which you see directly copied from the originals, you know, because those are the shots. These are iconic. I mean, to me, these are kind of iconic because this film came out when I was 6 years old. I watched it a lot when I was a kid. It was important to me, all that sort of stuff. Yes. So I recognise all this stuff.
Yes.
And it got to the point very early on where I was thinking, how can anyone respect this, actually? Like, it's such a transparent sort of money-making move, basically.
Are the songs all the same?
The songs are mostly the same. The singing is a lot worse. The singing is really, really bad, actually. Even Beyonce and Donald Glover, when they sing Can You Feel the Love Tonight, those two can actually sing.
Yes.
But then they do a fucking stupid harmonising version, and it's like the version that you do when you're showing off that you can sing.
Yeah.
Just sing it properly. It ruined it. Be Prepared is my favourite song from the original, which is the one that Jeremy Irons sang to the hyenas about preparing to take over the Pride Lands, and like that is one of the few things in this film that is actually different. It's done almost like a fucking beat poem. Like he just talks over the music a bit, and they rearrange the lyrics so he doesn't sing them all. I mean, he doesn't sing or say them all. They're just not all there. He just repeats the words "be prepared" a few times quite badly. Very boring. Although to be fair, the actual voice performance, who plays Scar? I think it's Chiwetel Ejiofor, who I mostly think is badly cast. I don't think he has the right voice for it. I mean, worse than Idris Elba was in Jungle Book. Didn't have the right tone of voice. But as Scar, when he gets angry, he sells it. His voice acting is not bad. But I must say, throughout, everyone is badly cast, with the exception possibly of Billy Eichner, who plays Timon, who I think you might quite enjoy. You might not. He's a little bit of a gay stereotype.
Yes,
a little bit. You hear it's more in his voice than anything else. And Seth Rogen as Pumbaa, who really sounds right. He has that kind of gruff, sort of, his voice.
Yeah.
It sounds right coming out of Pumbaa. But even what's his name as Mufasa? Because it's the same. What's his name? What is his name? James Earl Jones, who plays Mufasa again. Doesn't sound right, and the reason for that, I think, because the voice is obviously just the same, all the line readings are the same. I think the reason for it is that they've gone so far down the realistic path in the aesthetic that like they've made these cats look so much like cats that, just like real cats, they can't talk. So the lips don't match their mouths, and they also look completely identical. A lot of them, you really can't tell the difference between a lot of them, especially the hyenas. They really look the same. Scar's the only one who looks a bit different, and that's because he's thin and has basically got like bad clown makeup on. He looks very weird. It doesn't look all that good. He has a similar sort of. I don't think you have the similar thing going on in his fur colour as he did in the first film, but similar but not the same. And actually, he's more kind of desiccated and thin and underfed and mangy. He looks kind of good.
How many? What are the films that Jean Favreau has directed up to this point? Just list them.
Yeah, okay. I will quickly Google him. I know that he... I think he kind of made his name as a big name director with Iron Man. He kicked off...
I know, yes.
He kicked off the MCU, but...
I think the argument that I'm trying to make is that he's made all these massively successful films, and there's really not a great one in the bunch.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I'll get them for you. Elf.
Right.
I mean, Elf was kind of fine, fun, but it's based on Will Ferrell,
Yeah.
Zathura, A Space Adventure, which had a budget of 65 million and a gross of 64 million.
Yeah, I don't.
Almost nearly made its budget. Iron Man 2.
Yes, those.
They're what they are.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Aliens, which I didn't see.
Oh, that was a huge flop, but I didn't see it either.
Just made its budget. To be fair, a huge budget, which is why it was a flop.
Yeah.
Chef, which was fun, but a very small project with his mates.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Not a great film. It's fine. It's one of those that they've got a series out of it on Netflix now.
Yeah.
The Jungle Book, which I liked.
I know, yeah.
Well, the reason I like The Jungle Book, completely opposite to The Lion King, is because they changed things. You know, when I went back and watched the original Jungle Book, it occurred to me that this really has no plot. It's a kind of showcase for songs and animation, and all of that is very beautiful, but it really has no plot to speak of. And actually, to put some of that on and kind of generate some kind of thematic coherence in the remake, I thought was smart. You know, and I liked that. So I thought there was some kind of ambition to what they're doing. It's completely the opposite to what they're doing here, which is absolutely the same. There is no desire to change or improve or reconfigure or reimagine anything. They just want all the same stuff, exactly the same as it was before, apart from the bits they decide to ruin. You know, like for instance, when Nala and Simba come back, right? So Simba has kind of been expelled. His dad's been killed. Scar tells him to run, then gets the hyenas to kill him, but they don't. He manages to escape. He grows up in the jungle with Timon and Pumbaa. Then Nala manages to escape the sort of Nazi regime that the Pride Land has become, and stumbles across Simba. So they're grown up and they meet again, and that's when you sing Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Except that, you know, I can't remember this from the original so well, but there is no suggestion of this being a romantic meeting. The only thing that you've had between them before is that they're friends, and that the suggestion that Zazu, the advisor, that has given them that they will be married one day, they go, ugh, you know, because they're 4 years old, whatever. It's an icky idea to them. So, like, the idea that this is like meeting your love again is absolutely not there. Not only that, but it's literally within about 40 seconds of them recognising each other to singing "Can You Feel the Love Tonight." It sparks up from absolutely nowhere. You've also got... You should have this conversation about where have you been? I thought you were dead. You know, here's what's happened in the Pride Lands. Here's why we need you back. You need to assert yourself as a king. All that sort of stuff, which happens in 2 lines of dialogue. It doesn't happen, basically. It's very badly written, that, and I don't know why they rush through it as they do. I mean, you know, when it comes out on DVD or whatever, it'll be worth watching just that scene so you can see exactly how perfunctory it is. They don't even get the main ideas across that they need to, of these characters meeting again. All of a sudden, they're falling in love.
Yes. To be honest, I can't even imagine myself watching those. I mean, you know, there's a lot of films that come out and they become part of children's childhood, but it becomes kind of embedded and ingrained in part of their lives, and you know, kind of every generation it changes and so on, right? And I feel maybe I'm just closed off to that now. I'm too old and I'm no longer interested, right? Like, you know, I've done all the Disneys and, you know, kind of all the Toy Stories and, you know, and so on. And right now I'm just interested in those elements that I truly love, you know, and kind of the ones that I truly love are the Japanese ones. We have quite what's the director's name? Who died now?
Studio Ghibli.
Can't
remember the director's name.
Okay.
But yeah, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle.
That's right. I love those. You know, and I kind of, those almost immersed me for a whole summer. You know, they're very beautiful and imaginative, and you know, and actually they're very different from each other. So, you know, Howl's Moving Castle is very different than, I forget what it's called, something like you know, the Red Witch or the Little Red Witch or something like that.
The Red Turtle.
No, the Red Turtle also, but there is one about a little witch, a little apprentice witch.
I don't
know.
You know,
which I like very much. You know, so they're very, all of them are very different from each other, and I think they're very imaginative, and also, I think they're truly great movies. Yeah, they're kind of, they have things to say about people and society and you know, feelings and so on.
They don't feel like they're commodities nearly as much as anything that comes out of Disney is. And Disney is like the king of commodifying things.
And I resent
that should be no surprise.
I resent the social pressure, you know, because, I mean, you know, it really is all about making money, and in its crudest form, right? Like, I mean, all popular culture is about making money to a certain degree, right? But, you know, I'm not sure that that's the driving force, you know, in all popular culture. And when it is, I just feel really resistant to it. Like, why should I feel pressured to watch kind of Walt Disney's new money-making scheme across a whole range of media and amusement parks, right? Like, I kind of,
And
I don't want to.
To be fair, I don't think either of us actually did feel pressurised to do so. Like, the reason that I went to see it ultimately was because I had time.
Yeah.
If I would have been perfectly happy not bothering with this Lion King at all.
Yes, well,
even on home media. I got around to it eventually.
I would have been happy until, I realized it was like such a phenomenal box office success, and then you do feel a bit of pressure, as a critic and as to kind of be abreast of things, right? So,
here's the other thing, and you hinted at this earlier, is there is no room in this aesthetic for visual expression. Or not expression, but expressiveness, imagination.
Yeah.
So, when you think about the cartoon version, it was, you had Zazu in a cage, you had Zazu being eaten by Scar right at the start, which doesn't happen here, because how can you, the thing is, it's so realistic that these animals are properly threatening.
No.
So like right at the very beginning, in the opening scene where they're singing Circle of Life and everyone's going to see the new baby, Rafiki, the baboon, is up on Pride Rock, and he approaches Mufasa, and he sort of touches him on the forehead, and obviously he's like his vizier, advisor, wise man, holy man, whatever. That's it. They have a relationship. But literally, there's this shot that is a close-up on Mufasa's face and Rafiki's hand, and I thought for a second, like, don't do it, he's a fucking lion. It seemed properly dangerous. Straight after that, you have the introduction to Scar, who is like chasing a mouse around, which is again taken from the original, but more threatening. It's not quite as playful because he doesn't move in the same way. If you remember Scar from the original, as you were suggesting, there's a certain degree of stereotyping in some respect to the way he moves, but it's nonetheless it's expressive. The way he kind of holds his wrist, the way he sort of he drawls. He's better than everything, and oh, what an awful thing that I'm in such a position that I can't be king, and blah blah blah. But it's deeply expressive though, and it's fantastic. You can't get any of that here because his face can't make the right expressions. His limbs aren't allowed to move the right way, and so if you had him, the thing is Zazu comes in that scene and distracts Scar. The mouse gets away, so he goes, well, you made me lose my lunch, I'm going to have to eat something else, meaning you. And in the original film, he eats Zazu, gets him in his mouth, as I recall, and it's only when Mufasa shows up that he spits him out. And it's a cartoony moment, Zazu comes out of his mouth covered in spit, and he's annoyed. In this, if you did that, it would be terrifying, and the thing would be ripped to shreds. Like, you could not do it. So you can't have these moments. You can't have Zazu in a cage singing "It's a Small World" or whatever he sings. You can't have Timon wearing a grass skirt to distract, the hyenas. You can't. What they do actually, they try and replace all this just with dialogue, just with dialogue jokes, a lot of which don't really work. And you have this very weird moment where when they're distracting the hyenas so that the others can sneak into Pride Lands, they're presenting Pumbaa as a lovely juicy meal for the hyenas, which is what they do in the original. But instead of doing like a song and dance, what they do is they do lines from Beauty and the Beast, right?
Really?
It's fascinating. So it's Mesdames et Messieurs, with deepest pleasure and greatest whatever it is, I present to you your dinner. And then he starts going, be our guest. And as he does that, the hyenas attack, they run off. But they do this, Disney is, I think we've said before, Disney is kind of really, really liking to talk about itself and do all this meta stuff. But I don't think I've seen that before.
Right.
So blatantly just, you like our movies, you like this one as well, we'll just put a bit in as a joke. That was very bizarre to me.
Anyway, what I think is interesting is that you have this technological development, which means that you could make animation so realistic, and instead of ending up kind of, doing something good, it ends up being an aesthetic constraint, or at least in this iteration, which is, kind of the new Lion King film, which is something interesting to think about. So not every technological breakthrough is an enhancement, or not every use of a technological invention is necessarily an enhancement.
There has to be a way of doing it. The one thing that really occurred to me is the scene where Simba is kind of reunited with Mufasa in the clouds, which in the original, he looks up to the skies and the clouds kind of configure themselves into an image of Mufasa that speaks to him. And the way that's done here is it's just swirling clouds. Mufasa doesn't appear apart from with a bit of lightning that kind of appears from within the clouds that illuminates them. You see the shape of the lion's face appear, but for a split second, it's not like he's there talking to him. He is through voiceover, but not visually. But it struck me that even in this, even with a film that is so down the line trying to do something that is just anatomically realistic, you could have done that with the clouds. That's clouds. That's like magic.
You know, one of the things I was thinking about in relation to this, you remember that it wasn't Lord of the Rings, but the Hobbit thing, I think,
right,
where they did it so hyper realistic, where I think they changed the frame rate.
They had double the frame rate.
Yeah,
48 frames per second,
and it was such an unpleasant experience to watch. And actually,
Yeah.
I think it really ruined the movie. Really, kind of, it was like just very difficult to watch, and it looked very weird. And rather than adding something, it was like it really detracted from it. And I had a suspicion that kind of this would be a similar thing, which it seems it has been.
It's not a turn off visually, right? It's not like it's not something that when we watched The Hobbit, or we didn't see it together, but I had the same reaction to you as you did when I saw The Hobbit, which was kind of physical revulsion because it was such an unpleasant thing to look at. And I think the reason that you spend 40 minutes with them having dinner at the start and doing nothing is to give you time to adjust. This doesn't have that. Right, it's not like you're kind of constantly questioning the visuals. The visuals are incredible, but then you're always aware that decisions are being made to restrict things in service of them because they don't have the confidence, or what, I don't know what it is, that they just don't think they didn't try and get away with more visual imagination or expression. Maybe the point was to not do that. Maybe the point was to make it very realistic, and that was just. And if you did any of that, it wouldn't fit. I don't know, but it just felt very plain and boring. And the aspect ratio was really wrong. I mean, it really is going to stick with me. The aspect ratio. It's like it's just designed straight to go to streaming. Disney have got their Disney Plus thing to compete with Netflix and Amazon Prime and all the rest. It's like it's designed to go straight to that. Just put it in the aspect ratio that'll look nicest on tellies. Because if it's in a really wide one, like 235 or something, that won't look right. It'll crop and everything. And everything was composed very badly. You've got shots where characters are half cut off the screen that look like they're composed for a wider screen. I really didn't understand it. I really didn't understand the visual composition of it. Because it was sitting there waiting for this beautiful vista thing, and you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, so why do that?
Right.
Why get Jon Favreau to do that?
Well,
just get
why Jon Favreau at all?
Why get someone who has... Get Ridley fucking Scott. He's good.
I think his directing career has been a loss, because I like him so much as an actor.
Jon Favreau?
Yeah. He's so funny and so warm, and so kind of open-hearted, he comes across as very natural on screen, and you could imagine him having become like a big comedy star, he's kind of, there's something Fred Flintstone-y about him, but in a very appealing way.
That comedy style that we've slightly got bored of the kind of fast-talking, being awkward American thing, I think he's the one who sells it better than anyone else.
Yes.
I think he is actually... He makes that seem natural when he does it.
Yes.
I think he's very good at that.
But I think, the problem is his films have been spectacular successes, a lot of them, right? But I think none of them have been good. And I think maybe a lot of people can do what he's been doing, with the Marvel franchise. But actually very few people could do what he brings as an actor. And, obviously he's raking the money in one direction, but it's kind of like, a loss that kind of, it's been at the cost of his acting, really.
Yeah. Anyway,
anything else you hate about this film?
I'm pretty much
you want to crush any other people's dreams?
No, I'm basically done. Oh, there's one thing, which is another kind of minor writing thing, which is how the hyenas, they're told to go and chase Simba when he's a cub. The Scar tells them to go and chase him and kill him, and they don't manage to. He jumps over a cliff and manages to survive, basically. And they're stood at the top of the cliff going, he can't possibly have survived that, so let's go. But the way they decide to go is like... it's a very dramatic scene. That's the stampede scene with the wildebeest. You've just seen Scar kill Mufasa. Simba has seen his dad die, though he's not seen how, but he's seen him fall. Then he's been chased by the hyenas who want him dead. It's a very dramatic scene, and the film does a reasonable job of selling it. And then they try and put this slight comedy button on it with these two hyenas. The hyenas are played by Keegan-Michael Key and Eric Andre, I think, is the other one, who I like normally. But they try and have a sort of funny, sort of not getting on with each other hyena relationship. They're supposed to be a comedy duo, and it doesn't really work, and especially doesn't work here because at the end of this very dramatic scene, they have a kind of a bit of an argument about how close they're standing to each other in that kind of American semi-improvised, awkwardy way of dialogue, and then the way that they decide that Simba can't possibly have survived and go off is very casual, because the other thing you think is they've got this hyena boss who is very threatening, and then they're also in cahoots with Scar, who's very threatening and is going to be king. They're very casual about just going, Simba probably has died, we're not going to go down and check. And they don't even try and give a reason that, like, it's dangerous to climb down this cliff face to look for his body. So it's just, I didn't like that bit. And I would have to actually go back and look at the original to see how it was handled there, because I don't remember those details. It may well be, rather like when I revisited The Jungle Book, the original, that I discovered that in all of these ways, it really doesn't hold up, and I have a completely different opinion on it. It's because it's a long time since I watched it.
Well, that would be interesting.
So I may have another look at it, but I can't imagine that most of it would not fill me with the same feelings. It feels like it would stand up. It feels like all those characters would still be the characters I love. Because to be fair, with the original Jungle Book, I never had that feeling. And so revisiting it was not kind of the biggest surprise that actually it didn't seem to hold up as people thought. It would surprise me if The Lion King didn't, to me.
Well, I think it's worth doing. But anyway, let's wrap this up for now. I'm very glad I didn't see it.
Dodged you a bullet there.
So, thank you very much for listening. We are eavesdropping at the movies, and we are on
heroin to get over. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye. Just briefly before we go, I just had to express to Jose, as forcefully as I could, that this is one of the worst cast films I've ever seen. Everyone's been chosen because they're a star. No one's been chosen on the basis of their ability to voice act. Even the ones who are actors. It's a Disney thing. It's like it started with those films in the late 90s. It started with Robin Williams in Aladdin, casting for stardom rather than voice acting. Because then all these films you watch all the trailers and it's name in The Lion King.
It's very interesting because when Disney was doing it, he wasn't doing that. You don't see any stars.
They're all voice actors.
Yeah, they're all voice actors.
As I said, I genuinely think it started with the genie in Aladdin.
Maybe Beauty and the Beast had stars.
Angela Lansbury, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But mind you, she was like a previous Disney star too.
Yes. Bedknobs and broomsticks, but not much else. So, but it is kind of. I don't get the appeal of it really, because I never go to a film because Jake Gyllenhaal is the voice of X or whatever. I mean, kind of. I mean, in some cases they bring value, in a lot of cases they don't. I mean, I can't imagine, that Brad Pitt voicing something would be, a draw for, an 8-year-old or even a 40-year-old. Actually, I think
it could only let you down. Like, how often can it be as good as the genie? Where it genuinely brings something very special.
Yes. But that was because he improvised a lot of that role, right? He added to it in ways that were just beyond the voice.
Absolutely. He also was very pissed off with Disney because I'm half remembering details, but my vague understanding of it is that he was told he agreed to do it on the basis that the genie would not be used disproportionately to promote the film.
Right.
And of course, Disney went, what the hell? We've got this fantastic character, everyone loves him, sell genie stuff. And he was really pissed off, which is why when it went to the sequels, they made the straight to DVD, they had no hope in hell of getting him to do it. And that really soured with Robin Williams.
Right.
But this like the absolute kind of start, I think, of the star is here as the voice to sell, blah blah blah. The only difference is with Aladdin that the voice actually was valuable.
Yes.
None of these voices is valuable.
Right.
Beyonce doesn't bring Beyonce's line readings are the worst. Every line reading is terrible from everyone.
Right.
But Beyonce's are the absolute worst. Beyonce, as I call her.
Yes, I noticed, but I didn't want to say anything. I love her.
But really, everybody's not, except maybe for Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen. They have a semblance of getting the sense of what they need. But, I mean, really, really badly cast. Right. We are.